In this episode, we're going to talk about how to check for brake clearances using brake templates. You can download these from the manufacturers of your specific brake kits. And I have generated a specific brake template for the Genesis Brembos on the DC2 Type R knuckles and wheel hubs. We will go over how to look at clearances on various wheels. I have shown here a 17 by 9 RPF1 that I used to run on the vehicle. Once you print them, take a ruler and just pick one of the dimensions that looks nice. For example, the factory wheel register is 64 millimeters, or should be 64 millimeters. So you put your ruler here. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's 64. If you're at the center of the lines, it is exactly 64. So that's how you know that you have not scaled your drawing and or the template when you're printing them. So same goes for the template that I have generated for the Genesis calipers. Let's take a measurement. This is also 64 millimeters. So both of these are printed 1-to-1 scale wise with respect to the drawing itself. So once you cut this out and put them on a template of some kind or some harder backing, you will be able to accurately measure the wheel. How can you incorporate spacers sizing into this? Here I'll show you a quick way. If you know you're going to need spacers, you can either go up in 5 millimeter increments, or in my case I went to 10 millimeter increments just in case. So what you can do is, off of the wheel mounting face, if you know you're going to use spacers, draw the thickness of the spacer onto here right now. So in my case, I want it in 10 millimeter increments. So I'll do 10 mil and 20 mil. I don't think I'm gonna go more than 20 mils, so I'm gonna stop at 20. And I'm gonna do the same thing on the other side. I have generously given myself a cut line that is about 5 millimeters. This is about a 5 millimeter spacing from the caliper. And I've left 3 millimeters all the way around the caliper, just for factor safety and leaving yourself a little bit of extra room around the wheel. I didn't want any contact between these calipers and the wheel at all, so that is what I'm going for. All right, next step, let's cut this up.
A few moments later.
The only difference here is that you're gonna take the scissors and cut it all the way down to the wheel mounting face that was there originally before the spacers. Okay, so what we're gonna do is cut it down to the wheel mounting face, and I'll show you exactly what's gonna happen once you get there. All right, so if you imagine that this setup is going to go into a wheel without spacers, you can fold these down, fold these out of the way. So this, when you go use it on the wheel, is going to show you the fitment without any spacers. Okay. And if you wanted to check the fitment with one spacer, with one 10 millimeter spacer, just fold it up to the 10 millimeter line. Now you're gonna check the wheel fitment and caliper clearance with an effective 10 millimeter spacer, basically. All right, so let's put it in. And immediately we have contact in two spots, two places, okay? Here, one at the barrel. We're hitting at the barrel. As well, if we were to go a little bit further, we would hit the spoke. It hit in two places. Okay, so how do you work the spacer? So let's fold out our spacer. Fold all this out. Yeah. And let's check again. So with a 20 millimeter spacer, we are still hitting the barrel. It looks like where we will not clear this wheel even with a 20 millimeter spacer. Well, let's look at some other wheels then.
3 hours later.
Can you move it along? I'm all out of time cards.
Next up, we got the 720 Form, which is a sub-brand under Die Alloy wheels. All right, they are a pretty big company, and they came out with a racing line, a flow form line, called the 720 Forms. This one specifically is 17x9 plus 25, with a 5x1 14 bolt pattern. All right, so try this again. We'll put our template in here. Fold this down. All right, 73.1 millimeter center. And what do we have? We got a bit of contact. We are totally clear on the barrel, but I have a very small contact here. I'm contacting the very corner of the caliper on the inside spoke. Okay, and this is where the wheel spacer additions are going to come in and help you. So let's try folding out a 10 mil spacer. Okay, this is what a 10 mil spacer is going to help you with. Let's put that back in. Spacer. Looks like the 10 mil spacer is going to be enough. The 10 mil spacer, once you add it in here, is going to give you, if I had to measure that, if I had to guess how much that was, it's about a 2 millimeter difference. That's an extra 2 millimeter clearance on top of our 3 millimeter clearance. So you're going to get a good 5 millimeter clearance out of this setup.
Many months later.
All right, after all that work, let's take a look at what everything looks like once it's bolted up. You can see I went with a hub-centric spacer as well as a hub ring that properly makes everything here hub-centric. Everything has been bolted down. I have a 255 tire mounted on these wheels, and when you look at the clearance, there's a good amount. I think the template is accurate. We got a good 4 or 5 millimeters of clearance around the spokes, and more than enough clearance around the barrel. The barrel is not a problem on this wheel, as it doesn't step in like the RPF ones do. So overall, this is a pretty big success. I'm gonna be tracking this setup in the coming weeks, maybe in a month or so, as COVID starts to cool down. I've been a big fan of these wheels. They come in these dual valve stems for your nitrogen purging, even though I don't run nitrogen, just thought it was an interesting idea. And I can't wait to have this mounted up on the car and start driving it. In this episode, we went over how to check for brake clearances without actually having the brake setup with you, and you can use a brake template to check for clearances. The wheels have been bolted up, and these Brembo calipers do look very good in this setup. I'm only a nut and bolt and some general maintenance away from being able to go to the track, so hopefully in the next 2 to 3 weeks I'll get the next video out, which will be talking about the braking performance of this brake setup at the track. I'm really excited about that, so please like and subscribe for the future content.